Happy Sabbath, everyone. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Oh, that's good stuff. That song's been stuck in my head for weeks, so I'm going to share it with you. Now it's stuck in your head, too. You're welcome. My name is Adam Weeks. I'm the youth pastor here at the Auburn Seventh-day Adventist Church, and welcome. I'm glad you're here. A welcome to those who are joining us online. This is a good day. This is a day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Happy Sabbath, everybody. Oh, it's so good to be here among our friends and our family to talk about this little light of mine. You are the light of the world. It's true. You are the light of the world. I love this verse. It means a lot to me. Growing up in a Seventh-day Adventist home, I'm actually a fifth-generation Seventh-day Adventist. This is in my blood. I grew up with the stories of heroic acts of Christianity, Christians who let their light shine. You might remember a few of these. Let's go through a few of the highlights. Does anybody remember who the Waldenses are? Raise your hand if you know the Waldenses. All right. What century were they from? How the Waldenses were from the 12th century. It's older than me. The 12th century, these people were Protestants, and they fought to preserve their ability and their freedom to worship Jesus how they chose. They were persecuted. Corrie ten Boom. Anybody know who Corrie ten Boom was? Raise your hand. Who was Corrie ten Boom? Anybody remember where he was? Corrie ten Boom. He was a Dutch Christian who, along with family, helped many Jews escape the Holocaust and survived the Nazi concentration camp. Corrie ten Boom. Incredible hero of Christianity. Mother Teresa, maybe a little bit more familiar, known for her work with the poor and sick in Calcutta, India, founding the Missionaries of Charity. Incredible people. Martin Luther King Jr., what an incredible Christian. Everybody, we should know him. Yes, got him, absolutely. A civil rights leader who advocated for nonviolent resistance based on his Christian beliefs and was instrumental in the American Civil Rights Movement. An incredible hero of Christianity. Joan of Arc, she was kind of a big deal. A young French peasant girl who led French forces to victory during the 100 Years' War, who was later canonized as a saint. There are Christians who we have learned about who are heroic people. I have been very blessed to grow up where I have grown up and have not been faced personally with those types of tribulations. I did get an opportunity to go on a trip to Russia, and Russia has had, in much more recent times, struggles with the ability for people to practice religion how they wanted to. I went to a family's home, and one of the ladies shared with me, she pointed to a table in their living room where they would eat and they would join. And she said, well, under the table, we had a typewriter. And we would cover this typewriter and the table with blankets to dampen the sound. Because we were translating the Christian Bible into Russian so that we could share the Bible with others, because it was illegal. And so we had to put these blankets over because we didn't want to get caught. We didn't want our neighbors to know it. And it was a very scary time. Heroes of Christianity. Oh, I feel so blessed that I have not had to experience that type of persecution. There's scary things that happen in this world. This world is not for the faint of heart. And our heroic acts of Christianity come out of a desire to preserve what Jesus shared with us, sometimes those heroic acts of Christianity can become angry acts of Christianity. You might also be looking in your history books, and you might also remember we've had some things such as the Crusades, not a positive chapter of Christianity where people went and enforced Christianity on others, and it was a devastating time. These things that happen when Christians feel that they are being persecuted, when they are fearful, they have sometimes a reaction, and their heroicism, their excitement, their fervor for Jesus can maybe be misled out of fear. And that comes in different ways. Right now, if you look up online pictures of Jesus, you might sneak in there an image with Jesus holding a machine gun. There's a whole thing on these different sites about Jesus holding a machine gun. And I get where this feeling comes from. There is a fear that in today's society that Christianity is under attack, as it is. And the reaction can be this, we want this Jesus who has a machine gun and da 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 da. And it's an angry view sometimes. It's an angry view. You might see people who are preppers, and they are preparing, and they're hoarding all these supplies and their guns and all these things, and they're literally burying these things in bunkers under the ground so that they will be prepared. And there is a fear there that they're literally burying their talents, their things that they have worked hard for, under the ground out of fear. That fear can turn into anger. You might have seen this in the news and different places where people who claim that they love Jesus and that they want to reflect Jesus to those they come in contact with, they do so in an angry way sometimes. They do so in an angry way sometimes. Seventh-day Adventism has been persecuted, and we have fought hard to be wary of things like the Sunday law, where we say, you know what, we don't really want the government telling us how to worship. We want to make sure that we can worship in the way that we want to worship. And I get nervous sometimes when the government and Christianity, they sometimes it gets a little bit too close and start legislating morality. And like, oh, hold on, wait a second. What was the example that Jesus gave? He lived during a very scary political time. Jesus lived in an occupation where their government was superseded by Rome. They did not get to choose, and wow, talk about a scary government presence when you are literally being imposed by the Romans. Have you guys watched the Chosen series? Who watched the Chosen series? I love that series. It's so great. I recently went back and I looked at the Sermon on the Mount, and the part where Jesus goes to Matthew and he talks about his introduction to the Sermon on the Mount, and he describes it as a map. I'm going to share a map so that people can find me, is how he shared with Matthew in that scene. And Matthew was confused, and he didn't know, why, how is this a map? We call them the Beatitudes. And in fact, I'd love for you to say them out loud with me. Let's read this together. So we'll start here in just a second. So one moment, you're going to read it with me. Let me introduce this. This is the introduction to the Sermon on the Mount. Now when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him, and he began to teach them. Let's read this together. Number 3. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Thank you for sharing that with me. I read these words, the red letters of the Bible. I love how the words that are the words of Jesus are set aside as the red letters of our Bible, and we can look and say, you know what, that's what Jesus said. The Bible is a collection from lots of authors, and the red letters are especially important to me. He said this as an introduction to his Sermon on the Mount. I don't see a lot of fear in that. I don't see where it says when someone tells you, tries to persecute you, that you need to fight back. We see examples of how Jesus reacted to that. Render unto Caesar's what is Caesar. Who was it that sliced off the ear? Who was it? Peter. And what did Jesus do after Peter felt attacked? Peter felt angry. He reached out with his knife and he sliced off the ear. And what did Jesus do? Let me make this better. This is not how we do this. This is not right. This is not okay. Let me heal that injustice. I love the Beatitudes. It is such a clear map to Jesus. It's amazing. We say that history may not repeat itself, but it sure does echo. History doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does echo. I am so glad that I live in a country that has not told me how to worship. I am so blessed that I get to come here every Sabbath morning and nobody stopped me on the way here and questioned what I was doing. I get to come here every Sabbath and I value that so, so much. This little light of mine, I get to let it shine. I'm going to let it shine. Like I said, I grew up in an insulated Seventh-day Adventist community. I haven't had to be a heroic Christian. I grew up in Loma Linda, where the mail wasn't delivered on Saturday. It was, the entire city was filled with Adventists, and we got to even have some say in things like when the mail was delivered. This little light of mine, how am I going to let it shine? What do I do? How do I have a bright light that everyone will see? You may know someone who reflected Jesus to you. This is an important person to me. His name is Andy Sandiford, or to me, that's Mr. Sandiford to you. Mr. Sandiford was one of my favorite teachers in high school. Taught English. He was a little scary. Mr. Sandiford was one of those teachers that and what was interesting about it is that his son was one of my best friends. But even still, I was a little scared of Mr. Sandiford. He's from Barbados and had a great accent and had kind of this stoic but yet sparkly light to him. Mr. Sandiford was the kind of teacher that when he spoke, you listened. There was wisdom in his voice, but not just in what he taught, but in my observations of him. Mr. Sandiford, we would be walking, and we would walk on the campus. He was in the student association, and we'd see it. And very often, I would see Mr. Sandiford walk, and he would reach down and put something in his pocket. And again, this would happen. He'd be walking, we'd be talking, he'd reach down, and then throw it away. I never saw Mr. Sandiford walk past a piece of trash. He was the kind of guy that without making a big deal of it, he was an example in a small way. Pick up a piece of trash, throw it away. To this day, I have a hard time walking past a piece of trash. And if I ever do, I feel guilty and I think that, what would Mr. Sandiford say? Small things. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. It can be a little thing. It doesn't have to be a heroic act, and a heroic act may not be what is required of you. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. I like this quote by the author Neil Ford. Small kindnesses are not loud, but they echo forever. It's a great thought. Small kindnesses are not loud, but they echo forever. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. What does that mean? When we don't have an opportunity to be heroic, what does it mean to let our light shine? Let's go through a few of these that you already know. Active listening. Are you good at listening to those that you come in contact with? Active listening is so important. It's a small thing, but it can make all the difference in the world to the people that you come in contact with. I like the example that we've got 2 ears, 1 mouth. It's a pretty good ratio, right? Let's listen to those that we come in contact with. What do they have to say? The people you come in contact with every day are the children of God. They are the creation of the greatest creator. Active listening is a small thing, but it's something we can do. Meal trains. How many of you have ever been the beneficiary of a meal train? Oh, what an incredible thing. That is a small thing that people here do on a regular basis to let their light shine. This little light of mine, I'm going to make meal trains. I'm going to make sure that people are fed when they need it. A generous spirit, holding on to everything you have. I have this visualization of when you grab something and you hold on to it tight. There's no room for it to get in there. If you have an open hand, there is room for blessings to both come in and then be the method of which they flow out. Blessings in, blessings out. Not blessings in, I'm going to hold it. a generous spirit. These are all things you know. I'm preaching to the choir. We should have a choir. That'd be great. We could do that. Kind words. But Pastor Adam, sometimes I get angry. Sometimes I get fearful. I don't always have the kindest of words. What do I do? Take a breath. Be intentional. And may your words be kind. Plan ahead. If you know that you have hot button topics or things that are going to make you angry and not have the most kind words, I like to do an activity sometimes with the youth is where we will role play, where you will put together a thing in your mind and you will act out what would that be like. Like, oh, that's kind of silly. I don't need it. When we are intentional, when we plan ahead, we slow down, and then we better reflect Jesus to those we come in contact with. When we slow down and we are intentional, we better reflect Jesus to those we come in contact with. Plan to make someone's day. Light them up with a smile. I like this idea that I never want to leave a room without someone smiling. Be that reflection to those you come in contact with. But how do I do that? What do I do? There is a very famous light bulb in the Livermore Pleasanton Fire Department. It's just a light bulb. But this light bulb is a little bit special. It was put there in 1901 and hasn't been turned off since. This is the longest running, continuously lit light bulb that has never been burnt out. They don't make them like they used to. How come it doesn't get burnt out? What is happening here that keeps this light bulb continually burning? This is called the Centennial Light. It was made by the name of Adolphe Chalet, and he made it by hand. And it has been noted in the Guinness Book of World Records and Ripley's Believe It or Not as the longest running light bulb. In fact, retired Deputy Fire Chief Tom Brunelli, he says, we don't even dust it off. We protect this. It's still going. Wow. This little light of mine, I'm going to burn really brightly. And then maybe get burnt out. How do we keep from burning out? Well, this particular light bulb is not very bright. It continuously runs at night and it is a source of warmth and comfort, and it does illuminate an important part of the fire station there. But it is not so bright that it has gotten so hot that it has burned out. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. My wife and I, we have a joke that I comment on lights on trees. I love it when trees are illuminated. Christmas is such a fun time of year, and it's because there are lots of little lights that work together to illuminate something. You don't have a tremendously bright light that gets so hot that burns out. When all of those lights work together, they make something beautiful. I was in, it's amazing, we're in July, and it's, I was at Michael's, and they're already planning on Halloween. Like, hold on, very soon, we're going to see Christmas coming up soon. But that's okay, I do love Christmas. I love that this idea of these little lights. Imagine this, the little lights that all shine to make something greater. It is not that one light has to shine so brightly that it gets burnt out. It's that you, in your daily routine, as you reflect Jesus with your light, and you join that light with the person sitting next to you in the pew and the person behind you and all the other people here in this community, come together for something beautiful. But Pastor Adam, you say, how do I do that? I'm not sure how to get involved. I don't know. I have commitment issues. I don't know. Well, I'm glad you asked. One of the people who burns brightly at our church, Susan Excel, has a really cool idea that she can't do by herself. And she's planning ahead. She's giving you an opportunity to let your light shine. She is giving you an opportunity. I want you to take in your bulletin, just for a second, I want you to pull out this piece of paper. Can you guys find this little piece of paper for me? These are the details that you need to know about the Bethlehem Market living history experience that I am personally inviting each of you to be a part of this Christmas season. It'll be December 22nd. You've got plenty of time to plan for it. You have plenty of time to plan for it. Every member here can be a part of this. And in fact, we are asking every family to do a part because this is going to be an opportunity for our church to come together of lots of little lights so that we can be a bright light in that Christmas season to our community. In fact, we're going to invite the community to come onto our church campus as we reflect to them what we believe it means to reflect Jesus. If you have any questions, talk to Susan. She's right there. Hi, Susan. There is a tent outside starting to kind of get you guys a little excited about what this can be. But I would like you to say, you know what, Pastor Adam, I want my light to shine. And this is one way that we can bring our collective lights together so that we do not burn out individually, but can illuminate together. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. I'm not going to let it shine because of fear. I'm not going to try and control others. I'm going to simply let my light shine because I believe that together we are so much stronger together and we reflect Jesus. And we do so in little ways that, like I said, do not come from fear or anger, but because it's from within that Jesus has worked in our lives, and we want to share that good news with others. Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for what you have done in each of our lives. Thank you for the courage you give us to not be afraid. Thank you for the example that you give us of what to do when we are afraid. We look to you and we rejoice in maybe that fear. We look to your soon coming. We are so thankful that we have this community, this Auburn Seventh-day Adventist Church, to give us courage that we need to work together to reflect you to those that come into our lives. As we end this service and move on to to our potluck together as we work in our community. We ask a special blessing on the food that we are about to eat. Please help it to nourish and to strengthen our bodies. Thank you for the people that have prepared the food for us, that we can have this time to commune together and live life abundantly as you want us to. We thank you so much. We thank you so much. In your name we pray. Everyone said, amen.